Depression. It can be really difficult to handle and even more difficult to tell people about, which is why today I'm going to be doing it for you. If you're watching this video, you are one of two people. You are either a concerned parent of a child who is trying to tell you that they have depression, or somebody who would like to know more about depression, either because you may know somebody going through it, or you may think you're going through it yourself and you want to check up on your symptoms and the types of effects it has. So I'm going to tell you the 4 main types of depression, the effects each one of those has, and the things that a lot of people say to people with depression to kind of put down the fact that they have it. You'll understand later. This video was actually requested. I'm not going to say who by. If you're watching this, you know who you are. I hope this can help you. The 4 main types of depression are major SAD, bipolar, and dysthmia. The last one, I apologise, that may not be how you say it, but I personally don't know very much about this one, but it's a very important thing that you know, so I've done my research about it. I don't really know how to say it properly, so I apologise. Depression in general, in all of these, has the same effects, but for different time periods and different ways. So I'm just going to run off with you all the effects that depression does have. Depression has social, psychological and physical effects. A lot of people miss out on the physical effects and don't really realise them as much. So I'm going to be starting off with those. Physical effects of depression can be lack of sleep or difficulty in getting to sleep, and a change in appetite. This is usually lowered. This does not mean that because your child may have had their appetite lowered or they're not eating as much, they obviously have depression. No, but having a lowered appetite is linked with depression sometimes, but obviously not always. But again, it is just changing appetite. It isn't always lowered. Like I said, it is usually lowered, but it can mean your appetite has been increased. Social symptoms will be constant irritation, or they're more irritable than usual. They are not as tolerant of other people as they may be as normally. Be sure to watch out for that one. Some psychological effects of depression are having bad concentration, lacking their usual energy, falling behind in work, college or school. Obviously one of the really big ones is a constant low mood and constantly feeling down. These are the 3 different types of symptoms, and obviously there are a lot more symptoms to each category of type of symptom, but they are just the basic and main ones that you want to look out for. I can't stress enough that you do need a mixture of all of these to have depression. You can't just say that you're falling behind in school, so you're going to blame it on depression. It doesn't work like that, I'm afraid. Let's start off with major. Major depression is when your child will see these symptoms or experience these symptoms in patches. This means that they could go for months and months without symptoms, but then they could have 4 months of constant depression, or they could have a week of depression and then go 2 weeks without it and have another 4 weeks of depression. It's really patchy and it's really randomly based. They don't control when it hits. Sometimes it can be triggered, but it isn't always, so you really need to keep an eye out for that. For girls, I need to stress that if your child is feeling depressed once a month, then please check with her if she's in during her period, because that could just be a symptom of being on her period. It could just be something that goes without. Unfortunately, it is for some people. It isn't for everybody, but make sure you check for that before you try and seek out professional help for her. SAD is again different type of depression, but it is also depression. SAD stands for seasonal affective depression. This means that your child will feel depressed around a certain time of year. This is most commonly the end of fall to beginning of winter. It's not just because the weather's really bad, and this is a very, very big misconception with depression, that people may just be depressed because the weather's all gloomy and dark and horrible, and it isn't always that. Sometimes it can be a real issue that they may need help with. Seasonal affective depression obviously doesn't only hit in winter and fall, it can also hit in spring and summer. Dysthmia, again, I'm sorry I can't say that. Dysthmia is when you go through a massive, massive, massive stretch of depression. This could last for a couple of years, and it is just constant. This is usually triggered by a trauma in the person's life, or something difficult such as maybe losing a job, a miscarriage, a death of a loved one, anything that has had a big impact on this person's life in a negative way. Finally, bipolar is a very strange type of depression. Bipolar is not just depression, it's a mixture of manic and depression. This means that your child will go from feeling like they can jump off a building and fly to going through very, very deep depression. They basically go from here right down to here on a very quick speed, and that will fluctuate a lot. If your child has experienced bipolar, I have to inform you that manic doesn't just mean that they're really, really happy. It means that they can do ridiculous things, like I said, like jumping off a building and they can fly, or like running around the town with no clothes on. They're insane things, and this really does need professional help. If your child has bipolar, or you believe your child has bipolar, or you yourself think you may have bipolar, please seek out help. Yes, in the phase of depression, it's terrible, but in the phase of manic, you could be a danger to yourself. Finally, I'm going to talk to you about the misconceptions about depression, things that people place depression on, which they aren't always. And I'm going to start off with the main one, which is obviously hormones. Depression is very common in teenagers. Parents usually blame this on hormones. A lot of teenagers have tried going to their parents saying about depressions, and then your parents will just say, oh, it's just because hormones are racing through your body. That really isn't always it. Like I said, occasionally it can be, but it isn't always. So you really need to make sure that if your child is trying to tell you that they have depression, don't just blame it on hormones, because that isn't just the easy way out. It's going to prolong their suffering and pain. Obviously, the next one, like I said before, is periods. A lot of mothers will blame their daughter's depression on her period. So again, like, it could be that, but you need to make sure that if it's fitting one of these four main profiles, that it probably isn't that. If she's going through a phase of depression near her period every single month, then that is probably it. But if it's 1 month, sometimes, not always, then please don't just blame it on that. Self-harm is often linked to depression, but I cannot stress enough that if your child is trying to tell you that they have depression, they are not necessarily trying to tell you that they also self-harm. This sometimes is the case, but it isn't always. And if you instantly assume that it is, this could have a massive, massive effect on your child. It is not mentally healthy for your child to have their parents expect that of them. Eating disorders, again, can go hand in hand with depression and anxiety. But again, just because your child may be suffering through depression does not mean that they also have an eating disorder. So I really, really hope I could have helped you all today. If you're a parent watching this, please know it took your child a lot of courage to show you this video and tell you about their depression. Having depression is not easy, and sometimes it can be really difficult to reach out for help. And if you are watching this because you're trying to check your symptoms for depression, please try and tell somebody. If not, you are always free to talk to me. If you have any questions or requests, please let me know. Don't forget to like this video if I've helped you, or subscribe if you want to hear some more. I'll see you all soon. Have a lovely day.